It was almost midnight. The kind of night where the rain doesn't just fall, it beats down, trying to wash away the world. On the outskirts of town, where the highway stretches into a long, black ribbon, stood the husk of an old building, the abandoned radio station, FM 98.7 Nightwave. It had been silent for 2 decades. Its antennas were like skeletal fingers pointing at the stormy sky. But tonight, the silence was about to break. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of dust and decay. Amit, a young audio technician, was there to document the place, to capture its history for a film. He'd heard the local legends, of course. They all warned him. They spoke of the station's last host, a woman named Rhea. They said she died right here, in the broadcast booth, during her final show. A show that was never recorded, yet somehow people claimed they could still hear it. Every year, on this very night. Amit just smiled to himself. Ghost stories, he muttered, more to the shadows than to anyone else. With a sense of duty, he reached for the master switch on the ancient control board. He flicked it. A thick layer of dust puffed into the air. The on-air sign sputtered, flickered, and then glowed a sickly red. The speakers, long dormant, crackled to life with a hiss of static. And then, a voice. Faint, ethereal, cutting through the noise. A woman's voice. "Good evening, night owls. This is Rhea with your midnight confession." Amit froze, his blood turning to ice. It was impossible. He hadn't even connected the main transmitter. There was no power running to it. The station was a closed circuit, an island in the storm. So how was this broadcasting? Where was the voice coming from? He followed the ghostly sound, his footsteps echoing through the empty halls, down a flight of creaking stairs into the basement archives. The sound was stronger here. In the center of the room, a single reel-to-reel tape machine was spinning, its spools turning as if guided by an unseen hand. He drew closer. The label on the tape was handwritten, the ink faded but still legible. Confession tape, 2003. He leaned in, his ear close to the speaker, trying to make out the words through the heavy static. A whisper, cold and clear, slithered out. "If you're listening to this, it's already too late." The tape continued to play, its mournful whirring filling the damp basement air. Rhea's voice, no longer just a whisper, began to tell her story. It was a story of obsession, of a nightly caller who phoned in at exactly 12:03. He never gave his name. He only whispered the same chilling words, over and over. "You shouldn't have cut the call that night." Frightened, Rhea had stopped taking his calls. Then came the final broadcast. Another stormy night, just like this one. Mid-show, the power went out. The station was plunged into darkness. When the staff finally got the emergency lights on, they found her. Slumped over the console, the phone still clutched in her hand. The official report said heart failure. The locals knew better. Suddenly, upstairs, a shrill, jarring ring cut through the story. The sound dragged Amit from the past and back into the terrifying present. He raced up the stairs. On the desk in the main studio, an old rotary phone was ringing insistently. The display, which shouldn't have even worked, glowed with the time, 12:03, and a number, the same number he'd just seen in the old call logs. His hand trembled as he reached for the receiver, his heart pounding a frantic rhythm against his ribs. He lifted it to his ear. A low, distorted voice like metal grinding against bone rasped through the line. "You shouldn't have turned it on." Amit cried out and dropped the phone. It clattered to the floor, the distorted voice still whispering from the earpiece. And then the world went black. The lights, the equipment, everything died at once. Complete and total darkness. Except for one thing. The on-air light. It pulsed with a defiant blood-red glow. And from the speakers, Rhea's voice returned. But it was different now. Calm, hollow, and terribly close. "Welcome back, Amit. Tonight, You're joining me for my final broadcast." Instinctively, he looked toward the glass window of the recording booth. His own reflection stared back, but it was smiling, a wide, unnatural grin that stretched from ear to ear. A smile he wasn't making. A loud crack of thunder shook the entire building. The speakers exploded with sound, not just one voice, but hundreds. A chorus of whispers, all overlapping, all chanting the same horrifying phrase. "You shouldn't have turned it on." Amit screamed, stumbling backward, his eyes locked on the smiling reflection in the glass. It began to move. A hand, pale and translucent, reached out from the surface of the window. It wasn't a reflection anymore. It was real, and it grabbed him, pulling him forward into the cold, dark glass. The next morning, the rain had stopped. The police found the station unlocked and empty. There was no sign of Amit, no trace that he had ever been there at all. The only thing they found was the microphone in the main studio humming with life. And from the town's radios, a soft, clear voice was broadcasting for the first time in 20 years. "Good evening, night owls. This is Rhea, and tonight's confession is mine." They say that ever since that night, FM 98.7 sometimes flickers back to life on its own. It only ever happens when it rains. So if you're ever driving late at night and your radio dial lands on a forgotten frequency, be careful. If you hear your name whispered through the static, whatever you do, don't answer. Thanks for joining me on this chilling tale. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more spooky content, and ring that notification bell so you never miss a broadcast. Stay safe out there.